Hello, this is a video about how to use a amplifier and a turntable to play music. Currently there's a lot of albums in vinyl that are coming out, and people are rediscovering the sound quality of an analog source fed through an amplifier. Currently there's very few amplifiers that are a receiver. That means it has both a tuner and an amplifier that do have a phono input. The phono input is necessary to use the turntable without additional equipment. So this amplifier I bought, it's vintage, also known as used, from a source on Craigslist for about $50. You may spend more or less depending on what kind of features you might need. The important thing is that it has the phono input. This one has several settings. There's a power button, a phone for headphones. Of course it doesn't do Bluetooth because this receiver was made before Bluetooth even came out. It has a speaker selector, which is what your speakers are connected to the back of this. I have it set on A because that's what my speakers are connected to right now. There's a volume control for sound level, a bass and treble for shaping your sound to your preferences, and a balance control for those making the sound come out of both of them, one or some variation in between that. The turntable is also vintage. It just has two speeds, the two normal speeds, which are 33 1/3 RPM and 45 RPM. This one is a direct drive. That means the motor is directly connected to the platter, which is where the record sits and turns. Let me go over to that side and I can point out some of the options from this angle. There's a pitch adjustment, so you can adjust from the strobe effect faster or slower than what the 33 1/3 or 45 RPM is. And there's a stop button here, which will pick the tone arm, which is this part, up off the record and reset it on the side. There's a lock for the tone arm because it's the most sensitive part of the turntable. It contains this arm that comes out and sits on the record. There's a cartridge, which is the main mechanism to get sound off of the record, and there's a needle that is what actually contacts the record and measures the ups and downs inside the record groove to produce sound. This one's a little bit fancier. It has a tone arm weight in the back, so you can adjust how the pressure of the needle sits on the record. There's also an anti-skating adjustment, so you can adjust it so it stays right in the groove and doesn't go to one side or the other of the groove. It also has a lift for the tone arm. I prefer the manual tone arm because that way you can adjust where you place the needle on the record, and you don't scratch the record also when you put it down onto the grooves. That's about it for the parts and pieces of this. I'll take you to the back of the amplifier and show you the connectors.